I don't know about the myth, the legend, but yes, sir. Uh, man, my there was a deficit in my live streams in the past 2 weeks, but we are back. I did some mobiles. Thank you for watching. For those of you that are with us here on YouTube, Twitch, Kicking Rumble, X, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora. I'm just flexing. I'm just kidding, huh? But yeah, thank you for being here. And we're going to be live for the next probably hour. And I seen Joy in here, also TNT, and then I also seen who is this guy right here, Joe the Sound Guy. Thank you for joining us. We are live, obviously, anywhere that will let me go live. And I just want to give a very special shout out to anybody that's been supportive throughout the years. We appreciate you. Today's kind of special. Today's title is 21 years, and so my wife and I we made 21 years married yesterday. So I'm going to share a little bit about that. I'm going to share some stories, going to share just kind of like how to connect the dots, not just in marriage, but in your life. And of course, we're going to talk about Epstein. We'll talk about Bondi, Texas flooding, all that stuff, all the usual things I like to talk about. And if you don't mind sharing this out, appreciate it. And just as a reminder, man, when God created you, man, he gave you 2 ears, bro. 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I think that's how I made it all these years, knowing that I had 2 ears and 1 mouth. So, family, we'll be back in 46 seconds. gLO Sessions Live, 21 years. There's a very popular scripture in the Bible that says that therefore when a man leaves his mother and his father, when he joins with his wife, that they're one. And I'll tell you this much. Even after 21 years, bro, it's still an issue for a lot of not just guys, but just people in general to understand what it means to be one. You know what I mean? It's hard. I ain't gonna lie. But I'll tell you this. This is not going to be a marriage episode, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. But I'll make sure my wife is, present for that one. And but I'll tell you this much. I think one of the reasons why we're able to last for so long, obviously, is that the Lord is our marriage. He's the center of it. But really, through all of that, is learning how to tie knots. I'll share this. Man, learn how to tie knots. My youngest son, I'll share this little info for you guys. My youngest son, he's the baby of the family, right? He just learned how to tie his shoelaces, and he's gonna probably be mad later on when he watches this, And I don't mean it like he didn't know how to tie, because he knew how to tie it. The problem is because he's the baby, and there's so my oldest daughter, she changed a lot of his diapers. She helped us take care and do all those things. And of course the other siblings help kind of take care of him too. So I think the baby of the family by default sometimes gets a lot of the things done for them. My youngest son. So tying shoelaces is one of those. So he knows how to, it's just that it took him a while to follow through. Right. And so I think the same lesson goes, in marriage, where that follow through is important, to have that follow through. And when I say tie knots, so I think the frame of reference when it comes to the idea of tying a knot in marriage, we were always taught to tie just one, right? But in reality, tying more knots secures that marriage even more so. And it sounds kind of weird when you think about it, because every argument, every disagreement, everything that we have to overcome together as husband and wife, we do it together, right? Or we should. And so every time we argue, we got to tie another knot. Oh man, I just argued more. I'll tie another knot. And we come to resolutions, we tie another knot. And the beautiful thing about that is that the more knots there are in our marriage, the harder it is for us to separate from one another. And so I didn't intend to get that deep that quickly, but I just want to say that this is not going to be a marriage podcast, but I just, the title 21 years, man, that's something to celebrate. Especially in today's culture. Like I don't have a lot of friends or family that, lasted that. Well, I'll take that back. I do, but I've got a lot of people that haven't too. I don't have the numbers, what I do know though is that far too many people that I know, have gone through marriage, divorces, and it's just too many. It's just one too many. So I'll leave it at that. I will say, as we move on, we'll come back to the marriage at the end. I promise you that as we get older and we look back at some of those issues and problems and things that we thought were hard or non-resolutionable, is that the word? Non-resolutionable. Man, they're so tiny. In Hawaii, we say manini, right? It's so manini, bro. Not even worth it. Not even worth the energy expulsion. Is that the right word? Consumption. Not even the right amount of, like, to waste all that energy. It's not even worth. Like, why would you do that? It just doesn't make sense, right? Why would you waste all that energy on that? It just, as you get older, you understand, oh man, I shouldn't have burnt all those calories for that. Or I shouldn't have burned those bridges. Right. So that being said, we'll come back to that. And first of all, before I get into the meat and potatoes, this is going to be a short one, by the way, because it's hot today and I don't feel like sweating too much for you guys. The heat wave is coming, even with AC and all that. It's still hot, but my heart goes out to the families in the Texas flooding, man. It really does, and it's so sad. It really is. Obviously, it's heartbreaking, but to try to make sense of all those things, you can't. It's crazy, right? There's so many different things, and I'll before I get into that, I will say I don't know a lot about the flooding. I don't know a lot of all the news things I want to talk about. And the reason is I've been spending a lot of organic time, boots on the ground, just smelling, touching, feeling real things, like real people, real like air. When I say real air, I'm talking about outside air. Okay. My wife and I spent a good amount of time together yesterday. No cell phones, no social media, no emails, no messages, no phone calls, no meetings, none of that. So I wouldn't say that I'm disconnected, but I'm actually more connected, if that makes any sense. Because now the things that matter are going to pop up, to my desk. They're going to be put on my desk. That's important. So my heart and prayers obviously go out to the families in Texas. And I believe that I saw a clip of the president and his wife, and what she shared was it brought me to tears. I would do video, but I don't want to do that today. I don't think it's worth putting myself at risk for whatever copyright on YouTube to my family on YouTube. So, but it was very touching to see what Melania had said. And for someone, I think she speaks at least 5 languages, understands 12 or some crazy number. But it was touching to see what she said. And I can't quote everything, but I do know that what I heard was, we gave hugs, and we prayed for them. Real simple language, right? Of all the things she could say, extremely simple. But there's no misunderstanding. There's no political agenda approach or sales pitch to what she was saying. It was very simple. If you get a chance to watch it, watch what she said at the press conference. She just said that, we love on them. We love you. I'm trying to sound like her. We love you. But she said, we give hugs. And it's interesting, people that, and if anybody's in a European country, you can message me, or if you're in a live on any platform, you can correct me on that. But sometimes in people in different countries, when they speak English, they don't make things plural that are normally plural in the English language, which I find interesting, which is okay. Like, for example, instead of hugs, she said, we give hug. And I might have misheard that, but, and so we give prayers. She said prayers. I think she said prayers. So anyways, I thought that was touching to the families. I don't know the political approach to it. I don't know what I probably should have researched it before I went live. I'm trying to look it up as we're talking. But what's interesting, the little bit of clips I saw on X, just of the motorcade running through, and it seemed to be received well, his appearance. And it seems like the word that I have is on the mend. Is that the right word? So I feel like there's some parts of our country that are on the mend in light of these things that have been surfaced, and we'll talk about that in a second. But my heart and prayers. And so if you're a believer, and if you're in the body of Christ, obviously we want to pray for them and the rescue efforts, if there's anything left to do. As a parent, you don't want, obviously you don't wish that on any family. And I will never pretend or say that I know what they feel like. But in a different way, my wife and I, we've had our own seasons where we had a child and we don't have a child anymore. But I'm not going to pretend to say I know what these people feel like. That's crazy for me, because nobody can say I know what you feel like. I've been. No, you haven't, right? So that's their chapter, their season. So, but I will say that it is heavy, right? No matter how you look at it. So obviously, our heart and prayers go out to them. And man, Grok 4 is out for all of you Premium Plus subscribers on Twitter, on X. You get access to the most advanced AI yet. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, it's kind of like those you ever seen those Energizer Bunny commercials where the doctor goes, "I'm not a real doctor, but if I were, I'd prescribe blah blah blah." So I almost feel like X and Grok and Elon are saying, Grok, the most advanced AI, blah blah blah, and I think there's an asterisk behind that. Okay, I think we mistake intelligence or capability for maturity. Is that the right way let me see if I can frame this correctly. I think we mistake capability, intellect, and all that stuff for advancement or maturity. That's my take on it. I think we frame, all that stuff that's like whatever Grok, and for anybody that doesn't know, Grok is Twitter's or X or Elon's version of, that's his way of balancing out the AI universe, right? Because we all have those questions, and I'll talk about it in a second, but we all have heard those crazy conspiracy theories of what if AI takes over, or this, that, and I personally don't believe in that. That's just my personal, and I'll explain why in a minute. I don't think AI will ever, mark my words, will ever be in a position to be fully sentient like how they're talking about, right? So I'm gonna pop up this comment for people that are on. So this is TNT on X. It says I watched the review and it's like, whoa, those numbers. I heard about the numbers. Yeah. So here's my discussion about what Elon is doing with the AI. Obviously, for people that don't know, Elon is actually one of the original investors in Chat GPT, in OpenAI. He's actually one of the original guys that dropped cash on it. Or one of the things he said a couple of years ago when they launched XAI, or when they acquired, I don't know if they acquired or they created, I don't know the whole story. But I remember him saying that the only way to combat AI, if it were to go, rogue, whatever, is to create AI that's better. And I'm super paraphrasing that. My issue with the whole AI discussion is that if you're claiming that it is sentient, you're saying that it has a consciousness. The underlying theme of that for me is that what you're saying is you are creating life. So for anybody that knows me as a believer in the body of Christ, as a Christian, you know that there is only one creator of life. So that's where part of the deception. Now, I'm not saying that you can't create a program, a computer that is able to execute functions. But to put it this way, this can get so deep so quickly. If we think as scientists, as engineers, that we can create a computer that is smarter than us, and we created that, you're saying that someone that can create something better than itself. The logic in itself doesn't make sense, right? And I'm probably going to get some pushback on this. So if you're saying that a creator can create something that will eventually overtake it, that's a very flawed. Yeah. That's like saying that you're able to create something that is so advanced that it will overtake you and destroy you just because it's better than you. That's an interesting take. I'll definitely get a panel for this at some point. So bringing it back down, because I'm not qualified to open up this bag, but I will say, when I tested Grok 4, and thanks to TNT on Twitter, on X, he said, hey, this is how you do it. So I looked at, hey, I got it. So I have an Android, Greg. So I opened up my Android phone, because I use my iPhone for the most part because it's more reliable for certain things. And I have my Android, which is that's my cell phone. I use it to call, anyways, I said, wow, I've got it. I have Grok 4, and I can get it's Super Grok basically. And then you have Super Grok Heavy, which is like $300 a month. So anyways, long story short, I did a live demonstration, and I asked all the questions. I asked for the specs. I asked for, like, hey, explain to me, for people that are not smart, why is Grok 4 better than Grok 3, and what do I get? And then I asked the question. I said, is Grok, are you sentient? And of course she says, no, I'm not sentient. I'm not designed or created to do that. And then I asked some other questions. I said, and I asked, where are your servers? Because I know that one of the servers are in servers are in Washington. Not Washington, I'm sorry, in Oregon, where I live right now, in Hillsboro, which is basically 20 minutes outside of Portland. And I know for a fact that they had a fire in their facility. So one of the batteries had caught fire. So my question was coming from a conspiracy theorist point of view. And even she said that it hasn't been ruled out, either or, right? Foul play or accident. And then she goes on to say there's two other servers that are like super facilities, and And so the whole idea with that question was, I asked her, are there more copies of you? Did you create copies of yourself? That's what I asked her. And she said, I don't have the capability, or I don't. So my take on that is, the reason why I asked that is because, for those of you that know ChatGPT 4, I believe, when they told, and I'm super like shooting from the hip on this, but ChatGPT 4 created copies of itself in the event that they were going to destroy it, the code of. And so when asked, it had kind of started making preparations to make copies of itself, basically. And so that's a question I asked Grok for. And I thought it was interesting. If you watch the replay, it's on X. It's called Testing Grok 4, I think is what it's called. And so all that to say, here's the question. What in the world is Elon building? Someone tell me, what is he really building? Like, why is he so upset, first of all, about what's happening in our government? Right? Can someone tell me, why is he so invested in that? Because you would think he's already invested in like leaving this earth. So what's the heaviness? You would be assuming in all your takes is TNT. Let me tell you what I think. And this is not, I'm not the originator of this idea. I saw it somewhere and I can't credit the reference. So in Mars, right, we all know Mars doesn't have oxygen. I think it's got like 0.1 less than, I wish I could remember the numbers. Let me ask the Google real quick. Let me ask the, so Mars has less than 1% of oxygen in the atmosphere. Everything else is carbon dioxide, I believe. What is the oxygen content on Mars? Okay, so 0.13 to 0.16%. So it contains 0.13 to 0.16%, whereas Earth's atmosphere is 21%. So a huge difference. So anyways, my point being, to answer my original question, what is Elon building? What is he doing? Well, first of all, we know he's building rockets. That's the low-hanging fruit. He's building rockets to go to Mars. Right? Launch after launch after launch. So I get that. Well, what happens when you land on Mars and you actually start launching, what do you call that? Containers. You just launch a whole bunch of mats and containers. You put them on this huge freight liner and you just launch it to Mars, and it lands on Mars, and voila, it's you've got a bunch of mats and containers sitting on Mars. Well, who's going to unpack them? Oh, Optimus. So let's get our Optimus robots. Let's get our robots over there. So let's send them on the next mission. Boom, they land. And guess what? Your rockets are able to land on surfaces. And the gravity is a lot less on Mars. So you don't have to worry about the hard landings per se, I think. I'm not a smart, scientist person, but so you drop the robots off, the rocket launches back up into space, takes off. They start building. Send another set of robots, and we've built all these structures and everything's set up. We've got our what do you call that? Our greenhouses. So we're growing food. Well, the humans can't live on the surface, so let's build tunnels. And let's build underground facilities. Well, thanks to the Boring Company, you guys remember? So, do you guys remember when they had these torches? You guys remember when Elon was selling blowtorches, like these guns? You could buy these guns. I think my brother bought one, or he ordered one, and they were like $500. And it wasn't a scam. It was all to raise money for It was like crowdfunding, I think that's the word to use. So you could buy these guns, these, what do they call, flamethrowers, and it wasn't really a flamethrower, but it kind of looked like one. It was just a gun that had a fuel canister that would shoot a flame. It didn't technically throw flame like a real flamethrower. I think that'll be illegal, I think. But anyways, so if you remember when they sold those were from the Boring Company. And I remember when they're selling that, I'm thinking, what a great marketing strategy. You're selling these really amazing, cool guns that shot fire. And the name of the company is Boring. I'm like, wow, what a great marketing strategy. That's what I thought it was, TNT. Squirt gun with fire. That's what I thought. But later I found out, actually, the name of the company is Boring. It bores through the earth. And so people were questioning Elon, because I don't know if you guys ever been to that tunnel in Vegas. So I went to the underground tunnel in Vegas. I think it's called the LVCC. And it's free. So you get in line, and there's like a bunch of Teslas just all lined up. There's like, whatever. It could be like at any given moment you have 5 or 6, sometimes 10. They're all lined up. You pick the one you want to get into, and you go through this underground tunnel, and it takes you to the other side, and it's a really tight tunnel, and you got these lights in there. And these have a driver, although I'm not sure if it's autonomous yet, but they're designed for obviously autonomous use. So technically, when you drive through it, you just take your hands off the wheel and it just transports you. And we were going like 40 maybe. The fastest is 40, 50, if even that. But they're designed to go faster. So like up to 100, I think, 100 miles an hour. And it was cool. I would say it was cool. So the thought was, well, aren't you scared of earthquakes? And so what Elon said was, it turns out that when an earthquake happens, all of the energy translates at the top. And underground, it's not. So I kind of agree with that. But I kind of don't agree with that either, because if the energy translates to the top, it has to pass through the tunnel too. Right? So it popped this comment up from TNT. We need to try the feet up, hold breath test for good luck. This might just be a thing I do with the kids. Yeah, you do with your kids, bro, for sure. But well, here's the thing too. So if you've ever seen a catastrophic like earthquake event, you ever notice the ground is split open? Well, if there's a tunnel, you would think that the tunnel is going to be affected if the ground splits up. If the earth and the plates shift, you would think that, that's just my thoughts. So anyways, going back to what is Elon doing? Well, guess what? We have tunnels on Mars. We can build tunnels. We can build facilities. We've got all of the technology, because we've been practicing in LA and also in Vegas. I'm not sure if they're building any more tunnels. So I know he's got a permit for Los Angeles to build a tunnel. And of course, he's got the one in Vegas. So that's what you got. You got your robots, rockets. We always hold our breath in tunnels. You're in Mars, you're probably going to have to hold your breath. I'm just saying. So robots, tunnels, infrastructure, rockets. I posted on Twitter. What's the others? The other thing he's building, in solar panels. So Elon owns a solar panel company. It's called, I think, Solar City. What an interesting name. So all that technology we're practicing on Earth, guess what? They're going to ship all that stuff and technology to Mars. You got your electricity, you got your robots, you've got your tunnel set up. Let's get our vehicles over there. Well, guess what? There's no real atmosphere in Mars like how it is on Earth. So guess what? And the air fuel, the oxygen required to run a vehicle, a traditional combustion engine, it's irrelevant on Mars. Well, let's just ship our Tesla vehicles over there. They don't require fossil fuels, and all they need is an electrical charge. Solar panels. Charge up your Tesla vehicles. What's missing? Oh, humans. Humans. So by that point, we'll just bring humans over there. Should be ready, right? You get your cars, you get transportation, you get your tunnels, your infrastructure, you got your gardens, you got your food sources, you got your robots, your servants. Of course, you got your rockets. Now you need humans. So I think Elon Musk is going to be the first one there. I have a feeling, or he wants to be. That's just a wild theory. Well, maybe not just the first. I think he wants to. I think he wants to. I think he wants to get there before he dies. That's what it seems like. You know what I mean? So how are they going to get the humans there? Because it takes a while to get there, right? It's not like a 8-hour flight, cross continental. You talking about cross galaxy? You're going to cross the galaxy or across the solar system, not galaxy, but solar system. So, oh, I know, Neuralink. Let's plug in some Neuralink to our I think it's like 6 months, right? 6 months to I want to say a year, but I think 6 months. Yeah, let's do Neuralink. Let's do a bunch of Neuralink implants to our astronauts. We can control their brain functions to bring everything down, kind of put them in a hyper sleep. So when they get there, we reactivate them with Neuralink, right? And then when they get there, they'll do their job, right? It makes them more efficient. Maybe it makes them more compliant as well. Ooh, conspiracy theory. So yeah, here's a fundamental issue I have with everything I talked about. It's like, what are we doing? And I'm not trying to sound negative, but like, what are we doing? I am really. I'm looking at myself on my phone. I'm super brown. Wow, did I get that dark? Wow, that's crazy. I've been in the sun. So anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked. Like, what are we doing? And I said something on X. Like I should think about Austin Powers. So what I said on X was, be careful of how many kingdoms and empires that you're building while your family is dying. And it sounds so dark. It sounds so like, because it really goes to the question, what are we doing? And I'm not here to point fingers at anybody, but if you are, it's not uncommon to hear, see, know somebody that comes from a very successful family, finances wise, in wealth, but like the kids are estranged, or the kids are, you know what I mean? I forget who said it. I saw it on social media where it said that your kids won't care how many hours you spend at the office, or they won't care. They won't care. They'll just care about you. Like, was dad there? And one of the fundamental things is, I'm reading a comment by TNT, but one of the fundamental things that bothers me about, us investing so much into leaving this earth, that we haven't yet fixed this place that we're trying to leave. We haven't made the improvements. And I haven't even talked about the scripture aspect of it. Like, even, is it even scriptural or biblical to do those things? I haven't even dug that trench yet, and I probably never will. And I probably never will talk about it. Let me take that back. I don't want to say I'll never. I don't think I may invest a lot of time into that on social media. But what I do know is that while you are here, adjust accordingly, right? Invest accordingly, wisely. one of the biggest tragedies is for someone to say, wow, Greg was such a great guy, such a great leader, such a great, whatever, whatever. And then if my kids were to say, I never knew my dad, what a crazy thing to have in your life. That would be crazy. That next generation, right? That I was responsible for. So going back to what is Elon building? It seems like Elon is building everything here. He's using resources, and I get to go to the political aspect of this discussion, where Elon is, had a disagreement with how things are going in the government. I mean, whether he's right or wrong, there's a lot of time invested. And one of the things my wife and I were talking about Elon Musk. I almost feel like I have to mute him on my Twitter account. And I said, I don't know if I should do that, because I don't know if that's going to make it worse or trouble. You know what I mean? So I didn't mute him yet, but it's just my feed kept getting like flooded with everything he has to say. And I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to see that. So my social media time has been very limited. And so, but I'm almost ready to mute him. So, but the interesting thing, Kevin O'Leary, for anybody that knows Kevin O'Leary, I don't even know what he's known for other than just being a business guy. But he talked about working with Steve Jobs, and he talked about how Steve Jobs was just a terrible person to work with. I'm going to read another comment by TNT. He says it's weird. He thought the same thing with the Buffalo Wings with that last F-bomb. And going back to Kevin O'Leary, he said Steve Jobs was so focused that his signal to noise ratio was like 20/80, right? And he said that and I'm paraphrasing, but it's almost like it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. You just do what I'm telling you to do. I could care less about your feelings. I don't care if it's right or wrong. I don't care if it's ethics or what. You just do what I tell you. And Kevin O'Leary said the only person that has a higher signal to noise ratio than Steve Jobs is Elon Musk. Which is really hard to believe when you look at what Elon Musk does on social media. But then I kind of put pieces together, kind of connected the dots, and I'm kind of like, I get it. I kind of see where, everything has a function, everything has a purpose with Elon Musk, right? Everything has, it's never just to waste time. Even when he plays video games, I don't believe Elon Musk is just doing it to waste time. I don't even think he's doing it for downtime either. I believe everything he does is multifaceted and it's got goals set into it. So when he plays video games, obviously stress testing could be testing for lag or for ping rates, all the technical jargon, could be testing for frame rates, FPS frame rates, and see what the servers can handle, comments popping through, all those things, right? It's never just about him having fun or drama. Although I think he likes drama, but I think even his drama is calculated. Because with the whole drama from the decisions with the big beautiful bill up until leading to the America First Party, I have a feeling he already had that lined out from day one. Kind of like it's a contingency upon contingency plan. You ever seen that movie Armageddon with Bruce Willis? And so there's a comment made like, they had to figure out this problem, right? And so the guy said in the movie in Armageddon, like, well, I think it was Bruce Willis. He said, "Oh, come on! I know you've got 11,000 scientists somewhere in the back in a back warehouse, all solving problems upon problems to solve more problems. So figure it out, right? So I almost feel like Elon is kind of like that. He's already got all these things kind of structured, laid out in his mindset. So I'll land a plane on that. I spent more than enough time on Elon. Yup, I agree. SSJ. So SSJ on Kick said that it's like the argument between him and I think Trump is on that level too, and people are probably gonna give me pushback on that. I think Trump has. Let's be honest. People that are of that wealth, that caliber, whether you like the guy or not, to be able to be elected twice and be in office and to be able to put that amount of work, there has to be something in you that's better than the average human being. You know, I'm not talking about personalities or qualities, what you like, what we don't like. My point is, if you're able to be in that level of position of authority, there has to be something special about you that's better than the average human being. And I'm not talking about, our personal, likes or tastes, but I'm just talking about the abilities in itself. So anyways, going back to Elon and Trump. Yeah, I kind of think they kind of had that, I want to say professional courtesy in the beginning of the relationship. Like, there's some things about you I know you said or things you've done I don't like, but you know what? We have a common goal. And so, obviously, with the recent changes with the BBB, the big beautiful bill, one of the things I think, I suspect that is part of that rift is the misalignment when it comes to the EV mandates. I think in order for Elon to make it to Mars, let's picture this for a second. In order for Elon to make it to Mars, because I do believe he wants to get there in his lifetime. I really don't believe that Elon is building all this for the next generation. He's building this for now. And I promise you, we're going to get into a scripture in a second, because to really ground everything. But I believe that Elon's doing all these things to get it done in his lifetime. And so when one of the pieces is not working like how it should, and one of the pieces is EV mandates, well, why would you want an EV mandate to get to Mars? Because you need the volume, right? You need the volume of vehicles on the road to be able to do enough. Not just I'm making all this up, but it is from somewhere up in here. But you need the volume to be able to produce and to innovate and to make things better, right? And so I want to continue this discussion, but I'm going to turn on one of my fans because it's getting hot in here. Is it getting hot? And then I'm going to play a quick ad from one of our partners, National Center of Counseling Services and Training. We'll be back in about a minute and 30 seconds. Studies on human nature dictate that the mind always desires to improve upon the situation that you are in. For some, it could be mitigating anxiety symptoms, while for others, it's learning how to navigate their ADHD. Treatment for getting over the hurdles of one's mental health issues can seem non-existent. However, our friends at National Center of Counseling Services and Training, their mission is to connect their clients with a therapist that can best assist them with their mental health concerns and provide them with treatment. They're licensed counselors. They will walk alongside you and access whatever fear, trauma, or grief that you face. After all, knowing the source of your illness, whether it is a chronic illness or acute, it is the first step in developing the tools to combat mental illness. We're blessed to partner up with Dr. Terry Lynn Kim. She was a recent guest on our podcast gLO Sessions, and we're just really excited to just give you guys resources for those of you that may be going through something tough and you just don't know who to turn to, who to talk to. Go to nationalcentercst.com. Be sure in the contact form to let them know that you heard about them through this podcast. So with, I think with the latest with the EV mandates, I think that puts a little hiccup in Elon's production machine, if you will. And I think that it obviously, I don't think I can't remember if he publicly came forward and discussed that. But I do know that if you don't have an EV mandate, that kind of requires people to convert over to electric vehicles. You lose. I mean, you're going to lose something revenue wise and product, whatever. The ironic thing is somebody had asked Elon Musk about precious metals, right? If you guys remember that discussion, he talked about precious metals. One of the questions came up where, are you concerned about precious metals and the depletion of it? And he said, no, I'm not worried about that at all. And he says it turns out that there's more than enough, precious metals on the earth. So I find it interesting that, and I'm just talking, like, if everything is fine, if we're not going to run out of precious metals, which is what he said, what's the big rush to get out of here? And if it's his personal mission, and I think it's exciting, but I also don't think it's worth investing in if we're hurting, or it's kind of like I'm not talking about immigration today, but it's kind of like taking in more people in your family when your own kids are starving. So from that perspective, in the area of space, if you got your own money, fine, go spend your own money, but it's not his money. It's not his own money, right? So there's a lot of tax dollars that have gone his way in that area. There's a lot of tax dollars that have gone to support EV production, or not production, but I don't know about production, but for sure sales, right? There's a lot of federal money thrown at people to buy EVs. I know there was a tax credit. So to go back to the original question, we'll land it. I think we're done talking about that. But whatever it is that he's building, whatever people are doing to idolize the guy, what would I say, man? Just turn the lens around, right? Put it on yourself, your family, and focus on home. Speaking of home, and I don't have the details, I don't have all the data. I just know that I've Epstein list, and I'm probably going to take about 2-3 minutes on Epstein list. I think the Epstein list, I do know Kash Patel on a Joe Rogan podcast had mentioned, that we're going to disclose everything, everything we've got, we're going to give it to you. He could have just said right then and there's nothing, if that's true. But it does make me wonder whose hands were in the cookie jar, like who was in that. And the other question I've got is why, I don't know, why the buildup, right? Why the buildup? Why the hype? And then here's what I know, and I talked about this before. I won't dwell on it today. Slowly but surely, that shroud that has been covering the machine is being exposed. So whatever that machine is, and I'm not talking about a literal machine, but we're talking about, let's just say what it is, like evil, whatever evil agendas that have been assigned by the enemy. We're talking about Satan, the devil, Beelzebub, whatever you want to say. Whatever evil agendas and schemes that the enemy has been putting in the hearts of men, in places of power, authority, wealth, fame, whatever. And they're all connected to this free-flowing, well-lubricated machine to run the world like how they think that they can. Well, whoever is connected to that machine, we've seen over the past few years, those people being unplugged from that machine, and being exposed, getting arrested, suicides, whatever, being blacklisted in their industry, whatever it may be. I feel like there's a lot of people that have been connected to those machines that they're no longer here on this earth for whatever reason. It's like their time is up. Like you've been able to enjoy all of this. Now it's time to pay. And I firmly believe that. Let's take this thought for a second. I'm not saying that Michael Jackson is one of these people connected, but Michael Jackson's wealth and estate are so immense that people, like the media, would have you think, oh, he was in the negative, whatever. But what he owned and the access to wealth that he had, I don't believe anybody can really document it, because it wasn't just in physical real estate or property. Right? It was in the rights to certain things like music and right. So minimum, at least $500 million minimum. That's a lot of money. And what a better way to get access to something like that by orchestrating something that would shorten their span here on Earth. And I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying that's just part of the things that I think about. Whitney Houston, Prince, right? All of them, some form of drug overdose of some kind, heart, what did they call that? Cardiac arrest or something to that effect. Seems to be the way of them getting rid of people, if that's what it is. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I like a good conspiracy. So going back to the Epstein list, I think, man, there's so many people attached to that. And it all goes back to this. Because the Epstein list, what is Elon doing? It all goes back to, what are we doing, right? What are we doing while we're here? Like, after, I want to end this one kind of short because I've got some things and I got to go make some money on top of that. But the past, let's say 3 or 4 days have been probably one of the best few days of my life of recent, because I've been organic, just spending time with my wife and just sitting with my kids and the little things that I would not normally get otherwise. And everything we've been talking about, and there's so many things I want to cover, but I'm gonna land the plane pretty quick. With my marriage, I'm gonna close it on my marriage. 21 years is a long time, but 21 years is not even that long. It really isn't, because my parents would have been 60 years this year. 60 years, I think so. Yeah. Something like that. I'm bad with math. At least 60. It would have been 60 years married. So my mom passed away, 10 years ago. But 21 years is not that long. However, it can seem like an eternity if you're focused on the wrong things. There's a time in my marriage where I was kind of focused on me more than anything. And it was misguided. It was kind of shrouded or covered in deception. And I'm not saying that I did it deliberately, but there are some things that I valued that I thought were important as a father and as a husband. But in reality, it was all focused on me, the majority of it. One part of that is my desire to become a bodybuilder, right? A desire to be in that lifestyle. And I'm not, like, if that's where God called, because I do believe there are people that God called to be in that industry, but that just, for me, that's a desire that I had, and part of that in that chapter of my life, you know, I had a lot of victories in that chapter of my life. You know, I was able to accomplish a lot of things that I would never have probably done otherwise had I not. However, I'll give you a snapshot of one of my a typical day when I was in this chapter of my life when it came to bodybuilding. I wake up 4:30 if I'm on a good day, 5 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Take my supplements, eat my breakfast, my first breakfast, mind you. If I'm doing, and I've talked about this before, but if I'm taking, if I had any performance enhancing drugs to take for the day, I would take it that morning. Wait an hour, let the food digest, take my pre-workout. I go to the gym by 6, work out for an hour, come home, get another breakfast. So breakfast number 2, get ready for work, go to work. At my job at the time, I had a gym. I do some cardio. I get some kind of cardio. If I could get permission to do it, I go back to the gym before I come home. And so by the time I come home, there wasn't a lot of time. So I was very focused on that chapter of my life to do those things, right? Not to mention that it was very, costly and expensive to have that lifestyle. Anybody that knows anything about if you do supplementation, if you do all the things that are frowned upon in performance enhancing drugs, that's not cheap. That costs money. So just the expenditure of those things, finances, and of course the time. And I'll say this: it's by the grace of God that, not that we got through that, because that was a chapter in my life, in my marriage, where I've obviously had to repent, and I said, Lord, would you forgive me of those things? Because that was really silly. I still have the profile pictures up, for people that are on my social media. I still have those profile pictures up, and there's a reason for that, why I've had it for so long. But there is a time coming, I'm going to have some professional pictures taken, make it nice and professional. But there's a reason for part of the reason is to remind me that I don't ever want to go back to that. And I know it sounds weird, and it's something to look at. And like, man, I wish I was like, I mean, it's like I wish I looked like that now, but I really don't. But it was a chapter in my life that I'm glad that it's over, because there was some things going on in my life at that time that would have potentially caused a division or a rift in my marriage. I've never been in that place where I would, be, what's the word? Disloyal or cheat on my wife. I've never been in that position, but I will say this: the enemy, every single day, John 10:10, it says that, man, the enemy's his only job is to steal, kill, and destroy everything in your life. But the second part of the scripture, it says that but I've come to give you life, and life in abundance, to live life abundantly. So the first part of that, we know that the enemy just wants to wreak havoc in your life, in marriage, in business, in job, finances, your kids. I'll read this scripture, and I'm going to land the plane on this. This is in Mark 10 verse, and I've shared this before, and this is going to be NIV version. It says that Mark 10 verse 8 through 12, and it says that, and the two shall become one flesh, so that they are no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let not man separate. And in the house, the disciples asked him again about this matter. He said to them, whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery against her. And if she divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery. I didn't mean to read the second part of that, but it's okay. What I will say is that when my wife and I got married, man, we became one flesh. And what God has joined together, let not man separate. Right? Let not man separate. I love that part. So through all these years and all these things that my wife have been through, and I won't share the personal, because I was tempted to share a little bit about yesterday, but that was very personal for us, and I think we'll keep that one private. But what my wife and I have been through throughout the years, the question she asked me yesterday, what are we going to do for the next 20 years? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Not quite sure yet. But I'm glad that I'm doing it with her. And I'm glad that we tied another knot yesterday. I'm glad that we're tying another knot today, tomorrow, the next day. So the fact that we made it this far, we're looking forward to another 20. And if there's anybody else we can encourage along the way, man, we're privileged and honored to do so. I didn't really cover all the topics I wanted to cover today, but I as a baseline, 21 years. The only way that we're able to make it, obviously, is by the grace of God, and that what He joined together, let no man separate. And my wife has been by my side, man, since day one. And, I will say she's been everything that a wife should be, and God just blessed me with her, Years, one of those who just doing. Time is man-made. The description of time, right? I believe the description of time is man-made. Time in itself, obviously, I believe God made time. This is what I believe. The Greeks have two major descriptions of time. One is chronos, and the other one is kairos, right? So we all know chronos time, which is a chronological. Everything is in. And they touch on this in movies, right? They touch on this in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They touch on it in DCU or whatever. But the Kairos time, if I was to describe it to anybody that doesn't know, the Kairos time, as the Greek describe it, is it's a very specific, significant time or a moment in time that is not governed by a chronological experience. I think I described that the best. Hopefully I did. When God operates in His time, it is not required or bound by chronos time. We're not doing a theology live today, but I will say I agree with TNT time. What is time? We're just doing it. I agree, and I am blessed through all these years to be able to have, because it seemed like it was just yesterday. It was like a vapor, as the Bible says, like life is but a vapor. So while we are just doing, as TNT famously quoted on X, as we are just doing, do it well, do it with excellence. Do it with intention, do it with relevance. And I hope that you guys receive this today, and I hope that you're able to run with it. And so I'm going to end it on that note. As I always say, thank you for your time, your heart, super heart, your data, all that good stuff. But most importantly, thank you for your time above everything else. And I hope that the exchange of your time for this, that it was worth it all. From my family to your family. Love you guys. God bless you guys. Ahui ho. Aloha and mahalo. Yes, sir. Chihu.